Here's a little case study, little riddle to see if you can work out why someone has pain in a part of the body in one context, and then very similar environment, very similar movement, very similar situation, but different context, and they don't have pain. See if you can work out why. So this is an example of a person who has excruciating pain in the back, and they've had pain for a long time. They're now starting to break the habit of that pain, and this is an example of how some of the things that influence pain are invisible, and it provides evidence to support these other invisible components being present, that sometimes the pain stops us from seeing. And once you can look past the pain, you have to acknowledge it's doing what it's doing. The experience is real and it's generated by you or the unconscious part of your brain and the unconscious firing. But there has to be an awareness behind that to notice that without getting involved in it, and realizing actually that your body is playing out a pattern based on something from the past, wired and linked to a prediction of what's coming next. Here's the scenario, see if it makes sense. This gentleman has back pain. It was constant, is no longer constant, there's gaps in it, and all the structural changes that he believed were due to the pain are still there in the gaps, and they're there in the pain. But the pain can't be solely linked to those structural elements, because you wouldn't get any gaps, because the structure's there all the time. So he puts his work uniform on, his work suit on, he goes to the front door, in that morning he's putting on his shoes and socks, and his shoes by the door, bending over, knowing he's going out of the front door to work. He has excruciating pain in his back and he has to bend over to get his shoes on in pain and push through the pain to complete the task of putting his shoes and socks on. Excruciating. And get through it and get on with his day, and the pain can pass. The same person is dressed in his leisure clothes, tracksuit, trainers, goes to the back door of the house. He's going out into the garden. He takes 3 slow breaths, bends forward, puts his trainers on, has no pain at all. If his pain was solely due to bending, it would be there in both moments. If the pain was due to degenerative changes in his back, it would be there on both times. If it was due to his height, his weight, his age, his genetic predisposition, or any of those things that are unchangeable between those 2 moments, his pain would still be there. That pain he experiences is based on some of the fears he's thought about that part of his body, and that part of the body and the neural pattern of pain is attached to fear. Okay, that means that anything else that's fearful, not directly fearful like he's going to get bit by a dog, but fearful to the organism as a potential mechanism of overloading that organism, independent of whether he consciously enjoys it or doesn't, will trigger that pathway. And those assessments are being made unconsciously all day long. And that means if you can look at those scenarios, it's perfectly logical that his body, the organism, the prediction of the future based on what's happened in the past, on anticipating overload, and there is overload in his job and he acknowledges that, part of which he enjoys, but part of him wishes he wasn't so busy and could free himself from that. So that conflict is the pain, and the pain is his body's unconscious mechanism saying slow down or stop that behaviour. Now as soon as he temporarily does that, walks out the back door of the house with his trainers on, his leisure clothes, the brain knows exactly where it's going into. It knows what the garden's got, it knows what that side of the house and then exiting the house means, and it's very different from the other exit. If that isn't a crystal clear example that there are other invisible components contributing to pain, that you won't get a clearer one. And you may not be able to see those invisible things in your life, but when you can recognise it in others, you may start to be able to see those elements in your own life. And if you can start to change how you feel when you do those movements, when you go into those environments, whether you like them or not. If they're excitable and the body's overexcited through a period of overexcitability that came through normally a very stressful situation that was uncontrollable, then if it's over, you can condition that body to be okay with excitement again, doing it gently, by introducing behaviours in a calm way, by habituating calmer behaviours for a period of time to then allow that recovery to build back up. If you're still in a very excitable situation, a very stressful situation, then deal with what you need to deal with, but you deal it with pain, and the pain doesn't need to be there as well as the situation. The pain is just saying, attend to yourself if you are constantly going into this situation or laying in bed thinking about it before you go to sleep and waking with it in the morning, because that's too much. So finding the balance when you're under a constantly stressful situation is a little trickier, but pain is telling you you can have the situation without the pain if outside of those circumstances you take some time to come down and symbolize that kindness to your nervous system through a variety of simple, consistent, safe messages, different to the ones where you've pushed through. So you do have to consider where you're prepared to make the change, but if you're prepared to do the change, you'll get the results.